a very warm welcome. May these words bring you peace. May this moment be a quiet sanctuary for your soul, like a breath of fresh air coming through, the window that calms the inner environment. Today, I want to talk to you about something simple, yet profoundly transformative: the truth. We live in a time where the word truth seems to have lost its value. Each person creates their own version of things, and often what matters is not what is right, but what is convenient. But anyone seeking to live a Christian life knows that truth is not an optional choice, it is a path that requires courage, sincerity, and, above all, commitment. Today, I want to invite you to reflect with me on the truth that sets free. Not the truth used to judge or point out the mistakes of others, but the truth that transforms, that heals, and that brings us closer to God and to ourselves. Commitment to the truth is one of the deepest marks of the Christian faith. Living in truth is much more than simply not lying. It is choosing to be authentic, transparent, and integral, even when it costs us something. The truth calls us into the light, and being in the light means living without masks, without pretense, and without fear of being who we really are. It means looking within and acknowledging what needs to be changed, healed, and strengthened. The true commitment to truth begins within us when we decide to stop running away from reality, because sometimes the biggest lie we tell is not to others, but to ourselves. When we insist on hiding our weaknesses, our mistakes, or our feelings, we create a distance between who we are and who we would like to be, and that distance suffocates us. The truth sets us free because it reconciles us with our own essence. It allows us to be whole again. Living in truth is an act of courage and also of humility. Courage to admit our limitations, and humility to let God act where we cannot change alone. Lying, on the other hand, is always a burden. It traps us in a role that is not ours, making us spend energy to sustain an image that does not reflect who we really are. And the more we try to hide, the heavier we become. But when we choose the truth, even if it hurts, something within us is relieved. The soul rests, the heart aligns, and the conscience finds peace. Being committed to the truth does not mean being perfect. It means being sincere, acknowledging when we are wrong, asking for forgiveness when necessary, and seeking to do what is right even when no one is watching. This is the true testimony of a heart committed to the light. The truth also teaches us to speak with love. It is not a weapon to wound, but a medicine to heal. Often, the way we say things is as important as what we say. Truth spoken with arrogance can destroy, but truth spoken with love has the power to restore. Living with a commitment to truth is living with a clean heart. It is walking with your head held high, with a clear conscience, knowing that what we show the world is, in fact, what exists within us. Talking about truth is one thing. Living coherently with it is another. Consistency is the link between what we believe and what we do. And it is through it that the world perceives whether what we preach is real. It is not the speech that convinces. It is the example. People are inspired much more by what they see than by what they hear. Therefore, when we talk about Christian truth, we are talking about the testimony of life, about living in a way that our attitudes speak for us. It's not about being perfect, but about being authentic. A consistent Christian is someone who, even when falling, gets up with sincerity, who acknowledges their mistakes and keeps trying to improve, who does not use faith as an appearance, but as a path of real transformation. Inconsistency is what weakens the testimony. When someone talks about love but lives with resentment, when they talk about faith but act with distrust, when they talk about forgiveness but hold a grudge. These contradictions are common, and we all face them at some point, but the secret is to acknowledge and work on them, not pretend they don't exist. The truth requires us to be honest with ourselves, to stop justifying wrong behaviors and start seeking consistency between what we believe and what we do. Consistency is the fruit of truth lived out every day, and this testimony does not happen only in the great decisions of life, but in the small daily attitudes, in the way we treat people, in the way we deal with difficulties, in the way we react when we are opposed. Every gesture, every word, every reaction shows how much the truth has already transformed us inside. To be consistent is to let faith guide the practical choices of life. It is not just believing, it is living what you believe. And this consistency becomes the most powerful testimony there is. People may doubt our words, but they do not doubt what they see. Therefore, the greatest testimony we can give is to live in a way that people see the presence of truth in you, Isaiah. Truth that is humble, peaceful, and transformative. When we live this way, we don't need to prove anything. Consistency speaks for itself. The truth manifests in the gaze, in the attitudes, and in the way we deal with others. It becomes a reflection of what we are inside. Living in truth is also a call to spiritual authenticity. To be authentic before God is to let the masks fall and present ourselves as we truly are with our virtues, but also with our frailties. God is not impressed by appearances. He sees the heart. And that is why spiritual authenticity is so powerful, because it brings us closer to Him without filters, without fear, and without pretense. To be spiritually authentic is not about looking holier than others. It is about being truthful in the journey, acknowledging that we still have much to learn, but without ceasing to try. It is about living the faith in a simple, real, and sincere way without seeking human approval. Authenticity invites us to abandon the pride and vanity that often distanced us from genuine faith. It calls us to accept who we are, with our limitations, but also with the certainty that God works in us every day. When we live with authenticity, we don't need to hide our struggles. We can admit that we have good days and bad days, moments of strength and moments of weakness, and this is not a sign of lack of faith, but of humanity. Authentic spirituality is one that is born from inner truth. It does not depend on applause, recognition, or titles. It flourishes in silence, in prayer, in the simplicity of gestures, and in the sincerity of the heart. The truth sets us free when it allows us to be who we really are before God without fear of not being accepted, without needing to appear perfect. Because true spiritual freedom comes when we stop trying to please the world and start living according to what is true within us. To be authentic is to live with purpose, with conscience, and with a peaceful heart. It is understanding that faith is not a disguise, but a journey of real transformation. And this transformation only happens when we allow ourselves to be shaped by the truth. Truth is more than a word. It is a way of life. It invites us to be whole, sincere, and committed to what is real. Commitment to the truth challenges us to be honest with ourselves and with others. Consistency calls us to align what we believe with what we live. And spiritual authenticity reminds us that God does not want eddy diversions of us, but true hearts, willing to grow and change. The truth sets us free not because it makes us perfect, but because it makes us true. And being true is the first step to living in peace, loving genuinely, and following the path of light. May each of us have the courage to live this truth every day, to let it transform our words, our attitudes, and our relationships. And by doing so, may we be instruments of peace, hope, and love in the world. The truth is not heavy. Heavy is the burden of living a pretense. The truth, when accepted, makes us light because it comes accompanied by freedom. And freedom is the greatest gift we can receive